So the topic for the session is driving greater buy-in for expanding volunteering in your company, primarily targeted at corporate. But if you're an NGO who wants to learn how employee volunteering happens in corporates, feel free to stay on. I'll quickly just introduce our two speakers. We have Sunanda Rangarajan. Go ahead, please, Sunanda. Sunanda is the CEO of Omega Forum for Social Impact. It's the non-profit foundation of Omega Healthcare. She leads initiatives that drive holistic community transformation, emphasizing the pivotal role of women in socio-emotional and economic growth. Focused primarily in South India. She was earlier the head of CSR at Omega Care before they set up this foundation of their own. She also serves on the advisory boards of several non-profits like Dreams for Slum Empowerment Initiative in Nigeria, Arunodaya Center for Street and Working Children in Chennai, and Ascot Foundation. Put your hands together. Okay. Our other speaker is Shanmuga Anandaraman, also known as Sham. Sham is Director of Social Impact at Freshworks. During his 8-year stint at Freshworks, he's led machine learning, AI, the buzzword before, build software products. Currently, he's chosen to move out of AI, which is very, very, very unusual, to focus on their academy and social impact projects. So that means something is going wrong with AI. We have to figure that out. Before Freshworks, he's worked in Wall Street at Goldman Sachs, startup of his own called Frill, which he then sold to a company, and that's how he eventually landed up at Freshworks. He also founded and runs an NGO called Coloring Lives that works with government school students. So that's the quick introduction. What I'm going to do now is Sunanda will request you to do a quick. So these are not presentations where they're talking about the topic itself as much as just telling you a little about what is the current state of volunteering in their company to set the context for the conversation.
Hi, everybody. So I'll quickly just spend a few minutes telling you about Omega Healthcare's foundation and CSR. Omega Healthcare, for those of you who don't know, has been around for 20 years. They are one of the largest RCM players in the country. And we have close to 30,000 employees. But I'm going to now tell you data about CSR. So we qualified to start becoming CSR compliant only in 2015 with a very small amount. It's only in 2021 that CSR grew big enough for them to actually think of wanting to hire a dedicated resource for CSR and running those programs. So some of the numbers you see here may not add up to the number of employees or the 20 years of existence of Omega Healthcare. But I'll tell you why these numbers look very small. It's because CSR started operating as a structured entity only from 2021. And up until 2021, it was very ad hoc. So whatever money there was being donated, on a very need-based approach. So from 2021, I'm just going to look at my deck. We really, 2021 onwards, we started measuring volunteering itself, and we had a strategy around CSR and giving. Up until then, it was really, there was no strategy for giving. So 2022 onwards, I should say that we had close to 200 employees, which we started, measuring in terms of hours that they have contributed. And with Omega, one thing is, since 2021, every volunteering engagement has been a very bespoke engagement. It has not been come as a group and paint a school. We have never done that. We have always preferred to do very bespoke engagements, even if that means that number of employees showing up may be far less. But the engagement and the impact and what both parties learn from each other is far more meaningful from the employee's perspective and from the community where we volunteer. So 2023, which is really just last year, I think we have slightly increased in our employee volunteering. And every 270 volunteers or employees that you see here are with us, these 270, which will grow next year, are doing meaningful volunteering, which is very long term. So the same volunteer, the same employee is associated with a community, a group of people, and the learning that is happening on both sides has been very impactful. So these are some of the ways in which Omega has been trying to engage with volunteers and employees. Something that we do is mock interviews. So with a lot of the youth that we work with in communities, almost every weekend we have employees signing up to coach these youth on how do they show up for interviews, what are the kind of questions they'll be asked. So this cohort that we work with would probably, we pick cohorts that are graduating from our youth skill centers, and they are constantly in touch with our employees on a weekly basis for helping them do mock sessions. So that's one thing that we do very well. Of course, there are very event specific volunteering where we can quickly mobilize resources. Chennai floods was one very recent one. But apart from those, I'm talking about the deep engagements, right, in terms of volunteering. We also have giving week. We do during this, we do the give week in November, we do it in December. And then whenever there is a need for any of our NGO partners that come to us, we create wish trees, we keep collection drives. So apart from all of these things, the one-on-one mentoring engagements that happens through job interviews, career counseling. So our HR is very involved in trying to do career counseling for our the community that we work with. Now, the other thing that we do is the leadership is involved in something called the volunteering pledge. So at every level, managers and the C-suite in the organization at every function signs a volunteering pledge, and this pledge is then published internally to various teams for them to know that these leaders have committed to X number of hours of time, energy, effort, whatever it takes in terms of having to mentor or whatever skill-based, we match the leader to the community based on their skills and time that is available. So that is something that we do. I was asked to talk about the strategy, right? So I really think that the volunteering pledge has been a very powerful way for us to motivate employees when they see that their line managers, their leaders, their directors, and then the CFOs and the COOs of the company have signed this pledge, and that gets displayed in the organization. We have digital display boards in every floor. So when we constantly keep talking about it, the team members automatically get inspired. And so the volunteering pledge really helps. And it's just a very small thing. We make them hold this pledge that I pledge to volunteer X number of hours. And then what we do is the leaders in the organization, right from my CFO to my CEO, they take time to come to our project locations. And by design at Omega Forum, the foundation that I run, we don't have any projects in urban cities. Our projects are all only in rural. It takes at least 8 hours by train or a bus to reach that place. So they actually take time off and they come and they spend a couple of days in every quarter. We try to get them to come. And this has been a very powerful way for us when it is happening at the top, and ample communication happens internally where the teams get to know about the time spent, and they work with the same cohort for a long period of time. That for me is, I think, very unique. I haven't seen that too much. And this is all apart from all the mobilizing that we do locally. There are employees that want to do stuff in Chennai or Bangalore or in Hyderabad, which happens. But something unique I want to highlight, which you all may not be aware of, is this long-term engagement, where leaders commit to at least one whole year. At the end of every year, like now, we are actually reviewing, the CSR team and the foundation team reviews their work, their contribution and their impact, and we measure it and we give it back to them to show them that this is what they committed to and this is what they have achieved, and where there are gaps, what they have achieved and how this works. What this helps is, for example, my CFO has committed to, because of his finance background, he is helping a lot of students who are in our skill center that want to do chartered accountancy. So he has been able to help with that, right? So this is some concrete impact that we are able to create by having leaders commit to a long-term time commitment in terms of mentoring.
So a couple of disclaimers. I'll be a little more candid, share few more details. I expect it to be kept within this room. If there are certain opinions that I have, it's mostly my opinion based on my experience of in this journey. I'm not a CSR or a HR professional, as Venkat sir narrated in the background. So when we start, just to set the context and history, and then we can get started with the Q&A. The context and history of Freshworks. Freshworks is a IT SaaS product company. It has 5,000 employees, right? Chennai based, and now located in multiple locations. The founder is think of a rags to riches story, self-taught, a lot of difficulty he has come to that phase. So we started not believing in volunteering, but rather doing something ourselves. That's the starting point of giving back through something called Academy. Right? Academy is something that is run within Freshworks IT office. We created 3 classrooms. We get 3,000 applications of 18 to 21-year-old students. We select students who are really deserving from the lower income, first graduate, single parent, Tamil medium government school, and train them for 1 year, giving them stipend, laptop, food, and place them. No certification program, but placement is the goal. This is the core. Doing that will take a full-fledged team, a lot of employee involvement in that. So volunteering was born through that. So today, what are we good at? We are good at building technology software products. Now, how can we ensure we actually take it as a give back? That was the intention. In the last 6 months, so what you see here is those employees who are now involved with Academy. We've run 3 batches, we've placed them inside, outside of Freshworks. There are amazing student stories from fishermen community, from weaving community, from people who have stone laying students who came on to learn coding and actually got jobs. That's Freshworks core flagship program. And volunteering is part of it. So close to 140 employees spent more than 500 hours of volunteering in coaching these students. They are all within, they are not taken outside, they are all within the campus. They come, spend time, go. We all love to be teachers, right? In all different forms. And simple things, not coding always. Simple things like how to make your first presentation. How to say no when somebody gives you a job. How to say politely, how to set up a calendar invite. These are the basic skills we are talking about. We're talking about the government school students, 10th, 12th pass. So that's how volunteering started. And now we have, very fresh out of memory, just last month, we opened up volunteering saying, hey, employees said we want to do more than just skilling and education related volunteering. Can you create opportunities for us? And that's how we paired with Bhumi. And we actually created 14 volunteering activities where 500 plus volunteers came out, actually did different activities related to whatever appealed to their cause. You name it, whether it's planting saplings, visiting shelter homes, or even including giving specific skills to the underprivileged girl children where they went out. So that's, and similarly school transformation. So there are a bunch of things whichever employees wanted. So that's the closure. I can skip to the last slide. So there are 4 keywords that I would like anybody in my shoe who is first time created a global volunteering program and has just seen initial traction from the company. That's where we are at. We are not volunteering experts, right? But fresh out of the memory, there are a lot of struggles in this journey. The 4 things is, 1, volunteering need to be a lot fun driven angle. So there's a fun lens that has to apply, because that's equivalent to like how students go for a field trip. Employees want something out of their work and take their mind off and do something good, right? So that for fun, you need to do a bunch of things. We printed t-shirts, whatever is required for them to do that. Second, make it really friction free. Build a portal where people can actually quickly register and make it easy for them to check out things. So that is the second. Third is, it has to be top down in whether you say it or not, the manager has to feel comfortable with the employees going out and doing. But then the managers can make it as team activity, cut across shifts, etc. Top down is third. And fourth is, create a lot of visibility for employees who come out so that their stories get cascaded, videos, all hands. So in a company of 5,000, when you stand out through these, naturally there's a better opportunities for you, right? So that's the 4th thing that we did. Thank you so much.
So before I start, just a couple of other house points. One is, do make sure your phone is on silent. If you need to take a call, please step out and take the call. In addition to asking your questions for the speakers here, there's 2 other things you can do during the session. One is, if you got any insight from any of the speaker that you thought was very interesting for you and you'd like share that insight with others, just head on to volcon.in/participate, scroll down to this particular session, and there'll be a tab called Insights. You can click on it and then share your insight, right? The best insight for each session also gets a prize. And then at the end of the session, there will be a quiz, which again you'll find on the same link, which will have a question. You can answer the question. Again, there is a prize for each of these. Yeah. With that, I'll just move on to, and can somebody confirm you're able to use this QR code? And okay, in case you're not able to use the QR code, you can again go to volcon.in/participate, scroll down to this particular session and click on Q&A, and then you'll be able to submit your questions. So let me get started. Sunanda, first with you. So how do you get, in your case particularly, you're doing this no superficial volunteering, very depth, all of that stuff, right? which requires a lot more commitment from the volunteers. How do you get buy-in from your senior management to do something like this?
See, I believe I was even hired as a dedicated CSR resource and then to start a foundation because the management founding team was very invested in commitment to community. And so it is already, otherwise, in most organizations, it's an additional portfolio for people to manage CSR. So in my organization, this is an entire entity right now. It's not even CSR, it's a foundation, so we can do more meaningful grassroots work. So it has been easy for me, I must say, that because of this investment from their end and commitment, which goes beyond just me having to tell them. They are very interested in wanting to sign up and they are constantly looking for opportunities to come and volunteer. And they take time off. And I have had leaders who come land in Chennai and then the first thing they do is, I'm here, can we go somewhere to volunteer? Can I go spend some time in this project of ours? So that way, getting the buy-in from leadership has been very easy for me because they are also very committed. And because of that, it has been slightly easy for the teams that probably have more visible. Like if the CFO is deeply invested, the finance team is automatically invested. I won't say that about the entire organization though.
Shyam, are there any data points or benchmarks that you try to use to convince managers? Because one is of course leadership, and in your case also, the leadership was already deeply invested. But as you go down the line, you'll have managers and others, and that's a slightly tougher thing because they have day-to-day responsibilities. And if somebody wants to volunteer, they'll say, no, you haven't finished this deadline. Why don't you finish that first? So how do you try and convince them? Do you use any data points, any benchmarks, or is it just other forms of motivating them?
I'll be honest. So with respect to managers, so it's easy to get buy-in at leadership level because they also represent this as a, all the feel good and all the special things, what makes working at the company special. But the manager levels where the work, come what may, there is going to be a small dent or a small gap in the work for that very short period when that happens. So what we do, at least what I've seen working is, we work with managers with sufficient heads up. We make it less about data, but more about giving them the choice. Like if it's a quarter end, month end, things are very busy. So you align the volunteering to a schedule which they have picked up. So what we do is just we stagger the volunteering as much possible to make it as easy as possible. That's the only first thing we do. Data is there, but people are smart. People are able to, the data is still not very directly that they can get convinced by that. It boils down to us, at least it was a lot about how friction free can it be, how much of a manager aligned activity am I signing up for, instead of saying, hey, here is the activity I want managers to sign up the employees into, etc. So that is how we kind of.
You're saying that managers can choose what activities they want their teams.
Managers can nominate their team members and the different days that they can go and sign up for.
Sunanda, you said that senior leadership is already bought in, right? But I have an interesting question for you. One of the things we've seen, I've done a lot of work in philanthropy, getting people to give money. When Azim Premji gives away billions of dollars and you go to the common man, their reaction is, he's got that much money here. It is easy for him to give. Don't ask me to give 5,000 rupees. So in a sense, when your senior leadership volunteers or gives time, does that create any inspiration for people down the line, or is the reaction still, it's easy for them to do, they don't have daily targets to meet? So what is the role of modeling there?
Very true. So the very, very true, valid. When we try to do something in our Trichy office, for example, this comes back to me, right? So they're like, yeah, they can take time and travel and do all of that, but if I go, then who's going to answer my manager? Or we work in a back office, I was telling Venkat, so every hour is billed. So who's going to do that, right? So we struggle quite honestly, Venkat, when it comes to, how do you motivate somebody down there? But we've been lucky with trying to come up with solutions which are creative. One, evening hours, right? So there are some schools that we work with, and these are government homes that we work with the social welfare department. So these homes, we've gotten access. Sometimes employees are able to go in the evenings. If they're in a night shift, we're trying to tell them to do stuff in the daytime. Weekends have always been popular. And we're slowly telling them that, everything can't be a cultural activity. Volunteering, I agree, Shyam, that it has to be fun. I understand the fun element. But we are trying to also kind of gently nudge our employees as fellow human beings to think of it as not so much about why should this be a cultural or a happy activity for you. This is something that you have and somebody doesn't. Isn't it your responsibility? Don't you want to do it? You should have to do it. I don't think I want to motivate you to do it. So when an employee asks me what is in it for me, I want them to think about it and I tell sometimes, can you please think about what is in it for you, because this question is flawed. If you sitting in this AC room and working here and getting your salary on the first of the month does not get disturbed by seeing that child in that government home who has no access to privilege, why should I be helping you get motivated? So then these kind of conversations make them uncomfortable, makes me unpopular, but it also helps them think a little bit. And then we have had a group of human beings that truly want to then think about it, right? And so they do come. And we have people asking us, can we do something on weekends? Can we go on a Sunday morning to the school and teach football, for example? So we do have it. So then we tell the employees to come out and help design these programs, and non-profits also come and tell us what is it that they want. And sometimes we also want, so we also learn from this process, right? So that's how we try to do, like on weekends, evenings. And once in a month, we do get special permission from their line managers to tell them, hey, we need to do this. Can your team outings be around a volunteering activity? Can your strategy retreats have a volunteering activity? So that is how we...
Okay, so Sham, have you guys tried any incentives like rewards, recognition for employees who volunteer or anything like that? And if you have, does it make a difference to the quality of volunteering? Meaning, do people show up just to get that certificate or reward and not to actually do anything good?
We haven't yet done a certificate or rewards yet, but what we do is we capture video testimonials of people who come in groups, in teams, and we cascade that across the company. So that visibility, which is like imagine there are screens in each floor and that gets played and they see their faces. And that definitely helps to kind of let them to share the story of their experience. And also it encourages others to say, hey, I would love to have that kind of an experience. That has worked, and video testimonials of the people who have actually done things. We've not done specifically anything around rewards or recognition so far.
From that experience itself, have you found that seeing other people do this has got more people to come forward?
Absolutely. So very recent example, we had 1 month of volunteering Wednesdays, wherein every Wednesday, predictably there is a volunteering event that's going to be there. Clearly see a trend of how the last volunteering Wednesday had triple the participants. We had close to 100 people come over for doing that activity. Primarily spreads through word of mouth, and when those people who have participated in the previous Wednesdays share their experience, their videos gets played, there's very natural inclination of trigger that happens. Hey, let me also do something, and I don't want to miss out on the upcoming Wednesday.
But do you also have, and either of you also have the flip thing that people say, oh, I will get a chance to get visibility, and therefore let me just go and plant a tree and come back.
So if you look at it, there's in the axis of purity where there's only impact, versus on the left extreme of there's only culture day fun. I think we all want to be in that probably somewhere middle ground, or as much possible slowly get towards the right. That's the journey, how I see it. Video testimonials, probably that could be the initial trigger. But then when they went to those school transformation project, there is two big artwork that they have to paint in the 1 hour. Maybe that brings that small trigger and transformation. So and we all, our employees, at least we've seen our staff, people started in that spectrum, they start in different places. There are people who start right here. I don't need t-shirt, Sham, give that money for donation. To Sham, we're all going, we're coming, let's have at least some kind of a good memories and pictures that I can proudly share. That's also there. So let's make sure we are catering to, if we have an option, let's make sure that happens.
Same thing as Shyam said. So we have the people that say, let's not waste the money on all of this, give it if you can. And then we also have enough number of, I've noticed largely the younger population at Omega has been more interested in the fun, the very young 22 to 29, 30. They really enjoy a team building or something like that when it comes to an activity where there is fun and culture involved. Yeah.
Just a quick clarification. The 10 minutes is for this, right? And the full session is to one. Okay, great. I just one or two more questions and then we'll open it out. I see that some of you have already started asking questions. Feel free to. I want to give more time for your questions than mine. Yeah, just like one last question for each of you. Sunanda, what are some of the challenges you face in getting employees to volunteer?
Yeah, so in the last 2 years since I've joined Omega, the same set of 200 employees have always showed up. And now I'm going to learn from all of you and today what are the more creative ways of getting more employees to come to that day on that day. So challenges is they always tell us that we cannot take time off on a weekday. Unfortunately, the women that we work with or the work that we do also by design is located in rural parts of, even Chennai, it takes 100 kilometers from Chennai. So getting their access to those locations are not easy. So people have to take off and come. So we are in this year talking to our HR to see, can you embed sort of, like leave policy can include for them to leave the office and have it as a paid leave, right? Like a PL, can they get credited for that? Because that way, because of the design of our projects, which we don't want to sort of compromise on, we want to be in rural where there is access is limited. Can we actually hire buses and take these people, make them stay in the community and then volunteer? Right now, we have been successful only with our C-suite to do that. So that for us is a big challenge, right? Because we are not located in the cities. So getting employees to come to any location in the city for us has not been easy. So we have to work with volunteering organizations like you and I or Bhumi to help create programs for us in the city which are not our projects. So then it's not a long-term impactful project for us because they are not our partners. So that is our biggest challenge for us, if I've noticed. Yeah.
Sometimes, like we discussed, the senior management buy-in is very easy. Down the line, people start getting tougher. Occasionally, you'll come across a situation where there's a bunch of people who are interested, but their boss says, boss, don't go and waste your time doing all this rubbish. If you don't meet your deadline, I'm going to take your trip. How do you, as a person handling employee volunteering, handle such a boss?
At least my boss didn't say that. Yeah. So, okay. So one thing we, at least I'll share an example. That comes to my mind. So we said before doing all this activity, by the way, there was a 6 month of buy-in. We had to create, talk about this, etc. We ran a carnival. So just to reduce the amount of friction, just see, why is the manager or somebody in the line manager talking about it saying, hey, this is a waste of time, or you have a deadline, like a target to meet. I am sure the manager is aware a day or two in a month where the employees get to do certain activity of their liking will probably increase their productivity the very next day when they are back, when they are more energized probably because the company has empowered their passion project to be pursued, right? So this is the theme we followed, Venkat sir. What we did is before we started volunteering, what we asked is we created a carnival called Giving Week Carnival. That Giving Week will happen 3 months down the line, but let's have a carnival of where people can just in the office go, and it's like a carnival for bazaar and carnival for artwork displays where people were asked to come, people from the lower income sectors and the social impact places to set up stalls and just see as an experience where managers were seeing that and they were either buying products or they were having experience of the artworks. It becomes a fact that hey, it's no more I now know where I am going to be working with, whom I'm going to be partnering with. It's not an alien concept, even for managers and people. So they don't rub it off or shove it off on the side. So that helps, one. Second, we tell the managers. So we had a manager who, in spite of all that, was not, their employees were wanting to, the group was wanting to go there. So there was a very simple two conversations that we did. One, team wants to do it. The time is a concern. We'll probably figure out a Wednesday or figure out a day when we do. The second is a day or two will surely not have a disturbance on the business, provided if there is so much momentum on the ground. And we created something small called social volunteering club, like how we have Rotaract clubs and NSS clubs, etc. The clubs help. They come, keep meeting, and that drives the momentum.
Okay, just one last question to both of you, and that's really because I see there are a lot of NGOs in the audience we have here today. So if I am an NGO and you are struggling with expanding your employee volunteering program, what can I do to help expand your employee volunteering program as an NGO?
Honestly, I don't know. What we did when we started was, as part of that initial 6 month phase, we were exploring possibilities like Team Everest, Bhumi, whoever does corporate volunteering. We invited them, had a discussion, understood what they were doing, how they can help. We piloted a couple of engagement activities, and then we felt maybe whatever the team felt, we need a partner for sure. Definitely corporate teams cannot operate by itself. That's a decision we arrived at. And then we said, let's start with someone, and that's how we went ahead. There is nothing more And as part of their journey, if we learn from Bhumi or Team Everest, or I'm sure there are so many others, they have amazing curated volunteering programs, the way they articulate, the way they drive weekly posters and engagements. Those are things that can be picked up by other NGO partners if they.
So with Omega, we have always wanted one of the criteria for selecting and working with an NGO for us is their ability to collaborate with us in wanting to be open to collaborating both from a community perspective for program designing plus for employee volunteering. So we are not, I don't want, I've not been okay with, when there are a lot of employee engagement activities that NGOs do give us, which are from a template. Now, can we try, because we have a bespoke way of designing this program, which has to be designed for that community based on the needs of that community. So if we are working, for example, in Trichy, we want to make sure that the time spent both from the community and from the employee is meaningful. So the NGO is crucial for us to collaborate and be open-minded enough to say, okay, now let us sit with the community and come up with what they want. And then can we match that to a skill that our organization has? And that is how we've been able to work with NGOs. We've really done away with many of the more popular volunteering activities that work in corporates. Rather, we have worked on a long-term basis. Are they willing to trust? So first 6 months, we only do trust building with the community, where the same set of employees work with the same cohort for at least 6 months. And then there is some trust building that has happened. And then the NGO facilitates the meetings, right? And then if it is digital, it's safest space to do everything digitally. When there is a need for a employee to work in person, the NGO facilitates it for us. But that level of collaboration we do expect, and that is how we've been able to work with NGOs.
Okay, so we'll now open out to the questions. We've got more than 8 or 10 questions from the audience. Let me start with the first one for you, Sunanda. This is from Diya Kundu of Mentor Together. Are you here? Just stand and wave so everybody can see you. So Diya's question is, do you have any toolkit or curriculum that your volunteers use to carry out the mentoring and coaching program?
It's very bespoke. It really depends on the community that we volunteer with. For example, in a children's home with the government social welfare department, there is a particular need for only NEET medical help, medical coaching and tuition help. And because we are most of our employees come with a background in biology, there is just that level matching happening, which is why we are not able to scale it in the organization. It is remaining at 200 volunteers. You can see that every such mentoring is very bespoke, depending on what the need of that youth or the woman or the child is.
We have Praveen from Bosch. So Praveen's question is for you, Sham. How do you make the volunteering work and volunteers visible in your organization, and how do you manage the coordination of communication for all these volunteering initiatives?
Visible, I've touched on it multiple times, where we actually capture video testimonials. We highlight their works across both in all hands and in the different screens. So multiple channels to reach employees, which is their manager communications, the all hands, and as well as the screens in the cafeterias and all those places. We keep sharing their works whenever volunteers do good activities at the end of the year. So the second part of the question was,
how do you coordinate this communication? So what channels do you probably? Or
So
Praveen, do you want to just have the question is not answered?
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
So just the closure of it is the moment they sign up to we have a volunteering portal where we nominate event leaders for each of the volunteering event, and so the event leaders take the responsibility. So we assign ownership. So event leaders take the responsibility of communicating to all the volunteers who have registered for an event as a run up to the activity, and then post activity they submit a signed up versus showed up list. So kind of who turned up, and then an overall report of sorts.
This is from Jean Bodu. Jean, are you there in the room? Just raise your hand for Sunanda to know. Does Omega assist non-profits focused on healthcare through your volunteering program?
So through volunteering, do we assist? Other than conducting medical camps, no, we leave it to the experts. We work with grassroots NGOs in access to healthcare and preventive health, mental health. It really requires experts to do it. You need doctors, you need mental health workers, you need social workers in mental health. But so in these two areas of healthcare, we really work with counselors to do the work. We do blood donation drives if that qualifies, but really no. How do we help the capacity to capacitate the non-profit in healthcare?
You don't currently.
We don't do that. We haven't.
And then maybe that's a conversation you can have during the break.
We can talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, because Jean is part of We Do Good. they look
Please,
at skill-based volunteering. So I think that's
Please,
his interest
definitely.
there. Sham, question for you. This is from Ashish Tiwari. Ashish, just wave your hand. Okay. So how do you when you work with these underprivileged youth, especially for example in the academy, etc., one of the challenges they have in addition to the academics aspect is also that they've gone through childhoods with multiple trauma. So is there anything specific do you do around the mental well-being and mental health of?
Oh yeah, that's the biggest problem. So we are.
He has a solution, by the way.
Yeah, so,
I see all the NGOs are very smart. They're asking leading questions where they can provide the support you need.
so we identify, because we've run 3 batches now, we've made it a mandate to have certain mental therapy sessions, child healing sessions, body positivity sessions with, again, partners. There is like, I can name Mind Fuel karke, there's a team who works in Chennai who works with these audience. So we know there's a need for it, and then there's somebody who's supporting in that space, and we are, so from that we have also moved on to saying, okay, in life skills, what are the different aspects that we need to really strengthen them? Coding and technology is just one aspect. It's not the entire day of coding that they're going to learn. So half a day is actually split for purely strengthening their, giving them all the life skill supports needed, and the half of the rest of the day is for the tech side of it.
I'm interested in talking to him post
Please do.
post the
Please
session.
do.
Okay.
Please do.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Ravi from eVidyaloka, Ravi Raghavan. I'll take this one question you asked 3 or 4, Ravi. So this is actually to you, Sunanda, but I think it can be open to both of you. Do you do virtual employee volunteering?
Yes.
And do you allow volunteering during office hours? And there are 3 questions. The third one is, what support do you give to employees to sustain their volunteering?
Yes.
And you can choose to answer any one or 2 or 3.
we do a lot of virtual volunteering. So that happens during lunch hour. They do it during, we sometimes even do it from 3 to 4. What support we give is we communicate internally. We get the buy-in from HR. HR sends out mailers, and we have close to, that's one of the more popular ways of volunteering for us, where we can scale. So where there is no one-on-one volunteering, and if you need like a group of people to volunteer, then that happens through virtual volunteering. So we've been quite successful in virtual volunteering. Yes.
So for us, virtual volunteering is anything to do with academy students mentoring, where especially employees are not in Chennai or in Bangalore or in other time zones. We have those mentor slots. They connect. They actually do a 1 hour of conversation with the students, guiding them, answering some of their questions, and also giving them a skill. So that's part of the virtual volunteering that happens.
Okay, Karthi has a nice question. Companies always negotiate very hard when they have to pay for any NGO to facilitate corporate volunteering for them. They want it for 100 rupees. And they have bigger budgets for team dinners and t-shirts than they have for employee volunteering. Any thoughts? How can NGOs convince corporates to understand that there is actually a cost involved at the NGOs end in facilitating that experience for you?
You're preaching to the choir. I also keep arguing. In fact, we tried to get one of our largest offsites to happen in one of the NGO campuses that I personally know in Kuppam. The leadership agreed, the budget was approved, the NGO charged fairly what they would to a corporate offsite. The team members came back and said, there is no alcohol, they don't want music after 10 p.m, you can't have loud music. What am I going to come and do here? I work hard and I want to have a good time. And then I go off on this rant, and then I'm asked to keep quiet, because it's important that those employees' mental health is well managed, for them to perform whatever. So I struggle. I am with you on this. If anybody has a solution, please tell me. Yeah.
How many thoughts?
Yeah.
You also struggle?
Yeah, the struggle is constant, but the fact is that I think the two should not be compared, is my view. One is like how Sunanda said, there is this goal of I want to give that good times feeling. For that, t-shirts, dinner, whatever that is, that's that axis, right? It's like comparing, hey, you're spending so much on rocket science, and then you have poor people there that you're not helping. It's super, I don't think that is needed for humans to continue to feel good about things. Again, I think to touch upon the fair question of saying, is there scope for instead of saying, being very nitpicky about the specific at a rupee level, at a per volunteer level efficiency that, okay, one thing that I have at least seen with the leaders when we speak to them is, people don't want to negotiate hard to win a money, save a dollar here or there, at least when we work with NGOs, but it's to do with, okay, if this is the impact and if the NGO is telling us that, and if the budget funding, if the sponsoring is not project driven, if it's saying if it's less conditions are attached to it, if the funding is provided directly to from a larger goals, instead of saying specifically at a line item level there is no constraints to that project funding, I think those are good types of project funding. Only when it comes down to saying, hey, I want to have this line item, only this much money, that's the problem where we will get into. So my sense is the best way to negotiate with any corporation, any organization is to talk about the larger goal and then talk about the overall, if we can have funding at the overall level, not at the individual granular level constraints, with that constraint. Yeah. Not sure if I mean.
This is a nice. NGOs are very clear. They are asking questions that promote their agenda, so that's fine. Sheetal from Counselors. Sheetal, okay. How do you think employees might sign up for activities that demand to step out of their comfort zone? So Sheetal, for everybody's benefit, does medical clowning. She gets people to dress up as clowns and go to hospitals and bring joy into children's lives. And it has medical benefits, measured medical benefits. So if you had to get people to do something like that, most people don't want to do something like make a clown out of themselves. How would you ever get employees to get out of their comfort zone?
Great question. It's a mind shift change.
Do we need so many clowns?
She does. She does.
She does,
right?
yeah.
I mean, again, maybe it's you don't want to have everybody, people who are connecting with that cause. Let's say if it's a cancer patient ward, and I think it's the cause. If the cause is connected, I think people would sign up. That's all. And don't be disheartened if a lot of people are not signing up.
And Sheetal, I have an answer for you, which I'll talk to you later.
No, Venkat, please, we would love to know what it is.
We need to give the audience's questions enough time. Chiku from Jhatka is here. Chiku, okay, great. Have either of you tried climate change related activities within the organization, keeping that in mind that climate is eventually going to affect our health much more? So I presume that's also directed at.
So we are trying to do what we can. So I work in the foundation space with the community, but the organization does when it comes to climate change. I don't know climate change, but we try not to use plastic bottles in office. It's all ever silver and glass, and no junk is served when clients come. It's all, we serve it in, like no throwaway cups are also not used. We reduce it. We use in-house cutlery. And then we have an incinerator for the sanitary pad disposal in the facility itself. So that waste is collected there, incinerated, and then it's composed directly from there. So that's a big one, considering we have 30,000 employees and a lot of women there. So those are three things that I know that we are doing for climate change.
We have only 4 minutes left, so I think I might be able to take only 1 or 2 more questions. Please do continue asking your questions. Both Sham and Sunanda have access to this, so they can answer your questions offline after the session is over as well, right? So it's not like you need to rush them after this session over. They can answer your questions tomorrow, day after, as long as you can access the forum. These questions will get answered later. Ishita Vora from Reliance. Yeah. So Ishita's question, and I'm going to combine that with Ashna Mittal's question. Ashna? Okay, lovely. They have similar questions. So Ishita's question is, how do you differentiate between employee engagement activities and actual volunteering activities? Is there even a difference between the two? And Ashna's question in a related way is to say that, especially in Omega's case, nice to see the deep long-term community engagement. How do we create a shift in mindset for more people to sustain that?
Yeah, so that's my challenge for this year, right? How we have about the same 200 people that have committed to showing up every time for the same cohort. We need more NGO partners with whom we can come up with meaningful engagement activities, so that it keeps my employee also engaged in that, and it benefits the employee and the community that we work with. So be it with women or youth, these are two areas that we work with. So can we come up with and then it means that more effort on my side to go and drive communication and get more people to come. I've learned quite a lot today from listening to Shyam also about communicating and using that as a motivation tool for others to sign up and do this long-term volunteering, right? So can we actually do that? So yeah, maybe this year, maybe next year, I'll give you some, hopefully we can drive more engagement.
Sham, anything on this continuum of how do you differentiate between just employee engagement and actual volunteering?
So interestingly, some of the new age companies, like, be it LinkedIn or even in Freshworks, what we have done is we have merged these different functions into one single function. So there's employee engagement, volunteering, and employee comms is like one team now. So no more. So that way, the questions around the budget for engagement and budget for societal impact is no more seen as two separate entities. It's at least it's rolling up to the same budget center. So which means now there is much more empathy, much more conscious thought of saying, hey, how can we use volunteering as a method to achieve engagement, or even a better, like Venkat was saying, you could actually connect back to saying, is there some better soft skill or skills that are getting developed through this activity, right? Connections, how is the connections getting built? And if you notice, I said the third thing, which is communication is also most companies have an employee communications person, right? So if you club these three together, then you are solving for the communications aspect as well. So there is these three teams need not operate in silo.
Thank you, Venkat, for the insightful question, and thanks to Shyam and Sunanda for the thoughtful and candid answers, and thanks to all the audience for your nice and leading questions. Let's clap for all of us for this wonderful interactive session.
VolCon gifts for speakers are trees planted in their name. So 4 trees planted each in your name. Shyam.